All right, so next one up is God's Poet. God's Poet. Show your love, people. God's Poet. Let's go, baby. Let's go.
I have to admit that when I read the thing about the slam, I didn't see the knowing that it had to be about, make sure that I add in about HIV.
Mm-hmm.
So I mixed it in as best I could with what I have. All praises to God, I'm just an instrument. This poem is entitled, "The Devil Meant It for Bad, but I'm so glad God meant it for my good." It started off with some Milwaukee's best and ended up with some crack and 3 heart attacks on the side. You would think to the average person's brain it's time to stop, but oh, not mine. I've always been one to overdo everything from performing on stage to lying. And now it was about to overdo me because of smoking. My heart was dying. Oh, but to the best laid plans, my Father's all that matters. And it seems no matter how far apart we seem to draw ourselves, He has His own way of drawing in the scattered. You see, each of us have a purpose in God's great plan, and even though some think we're slicker and smarter than God Himself, I'm still just a man. Can you imagine that the devil has tricked the clay into believing he can make the potter do? I don't know who that person is anymore. Could it be you? Always ending up at that same junction with "I'm sorry" or worse. It's like I felt getting in that truck smoking crack and my ulcer burst. I really can't tell you what happened. I blacked out, and for a while it looked rough. I remember stumbling out the truck, falling on the ground, looking up. I remember in that same 4.5-hour ordeal, 2 of the very same people coming to me, going through my pockets. I tried to muster up, "Help me. Help me." I know they could see my eyes didn't look right, rolling around in their sockets. They were looking for the keys to the truck so they could drive away. I tried once again to muster up, "Help me," but they said I was geek and couldn't handle the high. They treated me like a dog and made me stay. Well, for the 2nd or 3rd time, them checking me, leaving me, I remember it was drizzling rain. And although you might think that my mind was crazy, for some reason I was completely sane. I still didn't know what was happening to me, and would somebody please throw a dog a bone? I laid there on the ground for 4.5 hours by myself, but you know, I wasn't alone. Well, 4.5 hours later, the symptoms subsided. I checked the corners, got in the truck, and drove 5 blocks home. I gave the keys to the truck for the lady who owned. Well, since I had made it home safe with my sick, addicted mind, you know what I did then? I reached way back in my back pocket because I still had the stem. And since she was asleep, I didn't have to share it, so I heated it up. As soon as I inhaled it, the symptoms came back. I ran to the bathroom and blood came pouring out of mine. Well, I went to the bathroom about 4 more times with the same results. I'm scared. I told my girl what's happening, and she said, "You need to get some help." And I thought, well, where? I don't want to go to the hospital because there I can't smoke, see? My mind told my body, "Don't you see you're dying? What about me?" Needless to say, she fed me. I took another hit and fell out, and the ambulance came and scraped me up. At this point, all hope was gone. Blood was coming out, mouth, nose, back, and front. I went to the hospital. They operated, but it didn't stick. I was in intensive care, patched up everywhere, but I didn't feel sick. At this point, I decided to be honest, so I gave the doctors my stem. I know they had to be like, "I can't believe it. Here we go again." That was on a Monday. By Wednesday, they had to go back inside. They operated, and it took, but that night, I died. I told the nurses, "I can feel it. It's happening again." Oh, man. For 3 minutes and 25 seconds, everything went black, but he still held a hold of my hand. I didn't see any white lights, visions, or the rest. I woke up with a as the doc pressed down on my chest. Well, I had to stay there for 20 days, and I said I had to learn how to walk. I said I'd also suffered a stroke, so I'm thankful to God I didn't have to learn how to talk. With all my business, running the streets, and acting like I was crazy in the head, I don't know how I didn't end up with something, HIV or AIDS. Well, 20 days later, and I left there, and once again, I headed for the hood. Not to church or to see my family like I know I should. And you know, God didn't bring me this far and through all that just to leave me now. And as I was writing this, I couldn't help but cry. I mean, wow. It didn't click with me until writing it down, going back and rereading it again. Jesus is an awesome God and my one true friend. If it weren't for God, I know where I'd be. This much is understood. The devil meant it for bad, but I'm so glad God meant it for my good.
You know, well, you host a venue as well. So you know calling in the middle of a show is taboo. Jeez. Okay, he's right outside. And so, gosh. Scores for
26.
True Poet.
26.5.
God's poet.
I know. I'm gonna get to the judges. I need the scores for True Poetry.
26.5.
26.5 was the score for True Poetry. Give that up real quick. Now, what do you have for God's Poet? Can't do that, man. You know, I said 0 to 10, but you know, he wants to make up his own rule and say an 11. So, I'm gonna wait for all the scores. All right. So we have from lowest to highest. Was that a 9? Is that a 9? Okay, that's a 9. 9.5. 9.5. We have a 10, and we have a 10. Give it up.